Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the continuing eternal saga, Bhagavad Gita as it is, by our most beloved founder, Acharya, our eternally present, fearless leader, Srila Prabhupada. Now, as usual, let's chant along with him the Mangalacharana to invoke auspiciousness for this most valuable connection with Krishna's perfect words.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurmilitam Yeno Shri Chaitanya Nityam Krishna Swayam Rupa Karanayam Dadaki Samanayam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Samanayam Sri Guram Vaisnavasya Sri Rupam Sarvadam Savanam Brahmavadisham Vangadivam Vangaditam Sarvadam Harikanam Sritam Krishna Devam Devam Sri Radha Krishna Bhagavan Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Introduction to Gita-upanishad.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, continuing reading Bhagavad Gita. And as usual, looks like we have a new setup here. If and when you like, sooner rather than later, immediately, if not sooner, please share your name and where you are and some auspicious Hare Krishna or Jai Srila Prabhupada. I want to make this as interactive as possible, So you get more than I get, or I get as much as you do. In this pre-78 version of the Bhagavad Gita, we are reading on page 13. How Krishna is acting in different potencies is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. How Krishna is acting. This phenomenal world, or material world, in which we are placed is also complete in itself, because the 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation, according to Sankhya philosophy, are completely adjusted to produce complete resources which are necessary for the maintenance and subsistence of this universe. There is nothing extraneous, nor is there anything needed. This manifestation has its own time fixed by the energy of the Supreme Whole, and when its time is complete, these temporary manifestations will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete. There is complete facility for the small, complete units, namely the living entities, to realize the complete. And all sorts of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge. I'll restart that sentence again. There is complete facility for the small, complete units, you and I, namely the living entities, to realize the complete. And all sorts of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete. So Bhagavad Gita contains the complete knowledge of Vedic wisdom. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatavadi Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam Kodi Vachalam Pangam Langayate Garim Yakripatam Ham Gande Shri Garam Dinatarinam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, a lame man can cross over mountains, and a dumb man can compose eloquent poetry. So, how can we possibly accept this? That this material world, the phenomenal world, is complete in itself. Now, what does Prabhupada mean here by complete? Complete means not just whole and perfect, but in every way, it's perfect. It's peaceful. It's undisturbed, free from anxiety. Full of happiness. Now, the material elements are not full of happiness. So why do we experience this place is not always like that? How is it that we don't feel complete here? We don't experience this world. It gets really cold sometimes. It gets too hot sometimes. We're up here, Northland. We're experiencing beautiful days like today, sunny, warm, little breeze. At night it's getting cold again. It was 5-6 weeks ago. It was too hot during the day and nice and cool at night. And as we go further into winter, it's going to be colder than we want. We have to put on lots of extra clothing, warm socks, jackets. So we don't experience that completeness, the peacefulness. Some people like to say, "Oh, it's all good. There's nothing wrong." And from the transcendental point of view, that's true. It's true. But we may not be experiencing that. So there seems to be a difference between our vision, our understanding, our knowledge of this world, our own experience, knowledge, realization, and what Prabhupada and Krishna are saying here. This is a synopsis, pretty much synopsis of the invocation of Ishopanishad. Om Purnam Adaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vashishate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So this word complete includes everything. And from the spiritual point of view, this is exactly right. There is nothing incomplete, unharmonious, unsupportive in this world. Krishna calls it Daiviyesha Gunamaya. It is divine energy. But we know that we distinguish spiritual and material. And here, this phenomenal world, material world, is being described as complete. And that there, within this cosmos, phenomenal world, there is complete facility for the small complete units, us, the living entities, to realize the complete. So what is the difference? How is it that this world and our facility, the facility for us to experience the completeness of it, and our own experience presently, what's the divide? What's the missing link? What is the missing link? Think about that question. It's actually answered here. You may know. It may not be obvious to you. You may not know. What's the divide? What's missing between the completeness, perfection of the phenomenal world, where we live, whether it's Massey or Taupo or Dunedin or Whangarei or US or North Pole, South, the Amazon, and wherever it is, and our experience of it, our feeling peaceful, undisturbed, joyful, satisfied, no need of anything, no attachment, no longing, no desire, no anger, unhealthy anger, no disease. It's incongruous. Are we experiencing that? Are we think, are we feeling and thinking that nothing needs to change? Everything's completely fine as it is. And we can go so far as to quote His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, whose appearance day we just celebrated on Monday. He says, quote, "The world stands in no need of any reformer. The world has a very competent person for guiding its minutest happenings." Here he's saying there's no need of reform or change in this world. The person who determines that there is scope for reform of the world himself stands in need of reform. The world goes on in its own perfect way. No person can deflect it even the breadth of a hair from the course chalked out for it by Providence. When we perceive any change being actually effected in the course of events of this world by the agency of any particular individual, we must know very well that the agent possesses no real power at any stage. The agent finds himself driven forward by a force belonging to a different category from himself. The course of the world is not required to be changed by the agency of any person. What is necessary is to change our outlook on this world. The scriptures declare that it is only necessary to listen with an open mind to the name of Krishna from the lips of a bona fide devotee. I'll repeat that. The scriptures declare that it is only necessary to listen with an open mind to the name of Krishna from the lips of a bona fide devotee, hearing in parampara from a qualified spiritual teacher, guru. As soon as Krishna enters the listening ear, he clears up the vision of the listener so that he no longer has any ambition of ever acting the part of a reformer of any other person, because he finds that nobody is left without the very highest guidance. I repeat that. Because he finds that nobody is left without the very highest guidance. It is therefore his own reform, by the grace of God, whose supreme necessity and nature he is increasingly able to realize by the eternally continuing mercy of the Supreme Lord. Now that's a fairly difficult sentence, it seems. It is therefore his own reform, by the grace of God, whose supreme necessity and nature he is increasingly able to realize by the eternally continuing mercy of the Supreme Lord, his own reform. So, whether you have been in Wellington with the protests, or are going, or haven't been in and won't be going at all, you probably have some thought, expectation, desire, even a strong one, that the protesters' demands should be met. You may agree with them. You may think that they're a little wacky. You may think that they're just some fringe minority group who are influenced by too much by living in their imagination, or even that they're selfishly destructive. Whatever your stance is, probably, and maybe not, you have some opinion about the political situation in New Zealand, in the world, concerning personal freedoms, medical health information, or government requirements for getting some medical treatment or wearing a face covering. You may well have some very strong opinions about any of those subjects, either side. So according to this, none of those people who are promoting either side actually understand the reality. They're needing reform themselves. So how do we reconcile this? At the same time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati himself, after years of chanting 192 rounds a day on chanting beads, he was approached by someone who knew about Lord Chaitanya's mission and had stated, he knew that Lord Chaitanya had stated, in every town and village on the surface of this earth, my holy name will be heard and sung. So he was looking, he knew about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the ray of Vishnu, son of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was destined and qualified to take steps to fulfill Lord Chaitanya's prediction. So he went looking for him. He couldn't find him. He had heard that he was in a certain place in West Bengal. He went to that area and asked people, have you seen a very erudite scholar, fixed up, advanced Paramahamsa, devotee of Sri Krishna, Panchatattva? And said, no, we haven't seen anybody. Oh, there's only that mad person over there. He lives in the forest, and sometimes he runs around dancing and chanting wildly like a madman. And that man looking for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he went to him, and he realized that this is him. And he offered his obeisances. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta tried to hold him and said, please, it's time. The world is going to hell very quickly. It's time to spread Lord Chaitanya, the Panchatattva's mission. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati looked at him. Spread Lord Panchatattva's mission? You don't see them here dancing through the groves, chanting and dancing? And the man, he realized that this person wasn't going to do anything. And a short time later, he had a knock on his door in his house, at home, in town. I think it was Calcutta. Can't be sure. Navadvip, maybe. He opened his door. There was this sadhu, pucker, clean-shaven, effulgent sadhu. he didn't recognize. He looked very different from the person he'd seen in the forest dancing and chanting madly. So I've come to now. The sadhu said, I'm Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and it's time to start the preaching, as you suggested. And of course, the man offered his respects, invited him in, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, "Start writing. This is what we'll do." And he started the Gaudiya Math, the mission to spread, to realize the prediction, to take steps to realize the prediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the glories of his name being spread to every town and village. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was on the one hand manifesting the activity of someone, a Mahabhagat, Uttama Adhikari, who sees everyone else as pure devotee except himself. That there is no need for any change or reform. But then he himself took to what might be called a reformation, preaching activity. So that's one way to understand the apparent impossibility that when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says there is no need, the world stands in no need of any reformer. That's the vision of Mahabhagat. And it's important, and so he came down to the Madhyam stage. Otherwise, it's not possible for a pure devotee to preach. Prabhupada has done the same. To make distinctions, to distinguish, as Prabhupada said, discrimination is the better part of valor. So to make differences, to see differences, but one may see, one on the Uttama platform may take on that vision for practical service in this world, but he never thinks that he is reforming anyone. He doesn't see himself as a reformer. He simply sees himself as an instrument. Make me dance, Prabhupada said in his prayer to Lord Krishna upon arriving in America. Make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. I have been benedicted with the name Bhaktivedanta. Now you please make that meaningful, because I have no power to influence these people in the lower modes of nature. So we want to be able to see the lower modes. We want to be able to see people's condition, but we never think we're the reformer. We never think they're bad, they're wrong, they should be changed, they should do this. I will show them what to do. I will explain to them. As soon as I think that I'm the doer, then it becomes us and them. The government becomes the enemy. The politicians, the military-industrial complex people, they become the enemies, and we're going to change them. We're going to fight. This is dangerous. We may even subtly maintain that kind of mood when we preach. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati makes it very clear that our attitude should be, because Lord Chaitanya wants the holy names to be spread, because he knows and the pure devotees know that that's all that's needed. For if we're going to talk about reform, then I need to reform myself so that I can act as an instrument to let Krishna reform people's hearts by being a perfect, transparent via media, that I can purely represent, that I can be like a touchstone for people to take on the holy names and to hear, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says. What is necessary is to change our outlook on this world, change our vision, change our mentality. The scriptures declare that it is only necessary, the only thing required is to listen with an open mind to the name of Krishna from the lips of a bona fide devotee. So Prabhupada says very clearly in Bhagavad Gita, we should speak the truth. We should boldly declare. Krishna says to Arjuna, boldly declare it, Arjuna. My devotee will never perish. Boldly declare it. But if that declaration of ours, that preaching of ours, isn't without attachment, without expectation of any result other than pleasing Krishna, pleasing Guru and Krishna, then that's not perfect representation. We should speak the truth, and Prabhupada said one should speak the truth in a palatable way. He also says, of course, calling a spade is true and valid and honest. And yet, he said, if we may need to chastise or speak strongly to those who are our dependents, those who want to learn from us, our children, our students, our disciples. But only to those people, not in general. So I'm talking about our mentality when we preach. Because the more we see that there is no need for reform, that the only reformation is required here within. In that sense, the more we win within our own internal struggle to be pure and surrendered and instruments of the Lord, the more that will manifest in how much we can help people come to the stage of reforming themselves. Without that humility and complete detachment, we cannot be very successful. We will not be very successful. So I wanted to focus on that, and you probably know the answer to my question already. What's the gap between me feeling in the same way? If my constitutional position is to be comfortable in this world, does that mean comfortable materially? No. This world is a place of dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It's a temporary place of misery. The sat being, you and I, the eternal being, cannot be comfortable here unless our consciousness is fixed in the eternally comfortable position, reality. So can anyone say that they're not experiencing anxiety? They don't have anxiety? Can anyone say they don't worry about what might happen to me, to you, to them? Can anyone say they're not in anxiety about having enough money or having too much money? Can anyone say they don't experience pain or the agitations, disturbances of the different stages of life? Whether it's the hormones in puberty, or it's the pain or disturbance or aches, headache, stomach ache, any part of the body. Can anyone say that? No. There are two people who can say that, though. Two kinds of people who can say that. You know who can be happy in this world? Two kinds of people. Fools and Paramahamsas. The ignorant, foolish person who's fully immersed in the bodily conception, and or the transcendently conscious, Krishna conscious person. Paramahamsa, the supreme swan-like devotee. Paramhamsa, supremely conscious, pure, swan-like devotee who takes the nectar. So it seems like a complete contradiction, but if we understand it with knowledge, I'm proposing that the gap, the missing link between our experience and our acceptance or belief, so to speak, transcendental belief, conviction, faith, in the words of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Krishna and Prabhupada here, the distinction between the transcendence and our experience or lack of experience. We don't even have to believe it. So, what? We don't have to believe it? Belief can change. We don't have to believe what is true. A blind man may not believe in the existence of the moon. His belief has no bearing on the existence of the moon whatsoever, not the slightest. So in that sense, we don't even have to believe. Belief comes from conviction, from experience. Okay, but not the other way around. So we don't have to believe that everything is complete here. There is complete facility for the small complete units to realize the complete. And all sorts of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge. So that the knowledge, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in this No Need of Reform quote is giving us from one level, and in many other quotes, he talks from different levels. As Srila Prabhupada does, as Krishna does. So according to our ability to realize, or our level of realization, we will understand. So it's not about belief, it's about level of realization. Accept or not accept, that's immaterial. That is, in one sense, unimportant. Now we're talking about very high philosophical points here. And yet, same thing is being presented right here in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. The introduction to the very most fundamental, basic, elementary ABCs of spiritual knowledge. So we're preparing our consciousness is being prepared by Srila Prabhupada in the introduction to be able to dive deeply and to get results, by studying Bhagavad Gita. As I said previously, the most exciting thing in the conditioned state is to realize, I'm talking about experience, our spirit, our complete, the complete nature of our very being, full freedom, full consciousness, full joy, ecstasy, happiness, satisfaction, peacefulness, confidence, strength, courage. All these diamond qualities, they're already. We don't have to go outside. We don't need them from anyone else. In fact, we can't get them from anyone else. They're there within ourselves. We desire them. We crave for them. We want to be peaceful. We want to be satisfied. We want to be free from anxiety. And therefore, of course, we associate with those who are at least more advanced than we are. And we give up the association of those who are not interested, even those who are maybe perhaps on the spiritual path, but not enthusing, inspiring, and even calling us to a higher level. Because that is what a Goshthianandi devotee does. Bhadranandis, they're happy to just carry out their own spiritual practice for their own personal advancement and liberation. But the Goshthianandis, like Prahlad Maharaj said to Nrsingadev when Nrsingadev offered him benediction, any benediction he wanted, he said, "Please, my Lord, I'm not a merchant. I'm fully satisfied, because wherever I am, I can sit and chant hear and chant your transcendental blissful glories. I don't need anything. But I am concerned and sad for those who are struggling, continue to struggle in this hellish world without you." So, any questions or comments? I'd like to hear your thoughts so far. Anything, even no questions or comments, just send some greeting or acknowledgement that you're here. Haribol means chant, chant, chant. We'd like to hear your doubts, your questions, your realizations. I've been saying some maybe very complex things. Maybe they're over your head, apparently. Let me know. I was surprised by that quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. There's no need of any reform. And anyone who thinks that there is reform needed, they need reform themselves. Does that mean I'm saying we shouldn't be in Wellington on Harinam? Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that at all. I'm talking about the mentality of those who, including myself, who are trying to spread the glories, diving into discussing together and preaching Bhagavad Gita as it is. Or Srimad Bhagavatam, or Chaitanya Charitamrita, or any of Prabhupada's most wonderful bridging books. The Science of Self-Realization, that's a compilation, but Easy Journey to Other Planets. So many books. Life Comes from Life. That's also a compilation, but it's also Prabhupada. Coming Back. Science of Reincarnation. These are perfect books to give to people. Sri Upanishad. I have this older, one of the interim copies of Sri Upanishad. Discovering the Original. This is one of the first books that Prabhupada translated. And Krishna book. I'm talking about our mentality, our mentality. Just to, otherwise, if I don't develop this mood of Trinada peace Sunichena, Tarora peace Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniyak Sadahari. Then what is the real potency of my preaching? If I'm thinking, oh, I'm such a good preacher, then I'm in need of so much reformation. If I'm thinking, I'm going to change the government's policy, or I'm going to change the people who are protesting, I'm going to change the people who are protesting against the government's policy, then I am in need of reforming in my consciousness. Not that I give up my endeavors. Prabhupada never said we had to become first pure in order to preach. And therefore, Prabhupada did say also, my only complaint about my followers, my disciples, is they don't read my books. And as much as we are serious about becoming the instrument for Prabhupada, for Lord Chaitanya, for the Parampara, that much we will hear and chant. That's why I'm asking you, because simply hearing a class, that's important, that's necessary. Well, I should say, no, only hearing a class is not enough. It's good. There's no loss or diminution with that. But if we want to take it into our lives, then we need to give as well, because by hearing we're taking, transcendentally taking. That's in one sense that's perfect, but more perfect is to share my thoughts, my doubts, my questions. Prabhupada said the internet, in the Nectar of Instruction, he says that our Krishna conscious society is based on the principle of give and take. So if we really want to advance more rapidly, you may think, I'm kind of slow or stuck, or I don't make much advancement. What can I do? Very simple. Besides your regular spiritual practice, in discussion, take part. Detachment, which is one of our greatest hindrances or barriers, obstacles in our things that have us keeping the brakes on, is not discussing and thus dissolving our attachments. If we want to become more attached to Krishna and detached from whatever so-called bad habits we have, and our lower qualities of the lower modes of nature, laziness, lethargy, avoidance, stubbornness, resentment, fear, anger, all these, lust, anger, greed, as Krishna says himself in Bhagavad Gita. These can be more easily dissolved, purified, dovetailed by discussing, by giving in discussion, whether it's doubts or questions or realizations. So I enjoy so much when I can give and take, and therefore we're going to revive our Prabhupada Sangha program. Online program. So we have a discussion, a give and take discussion, an interactive, participatory, hands-on exchange based on Prabhupada's books, and applying it, learning how to apply it in our lives. What's happening now? Why am I so anxious? Why am I so attached to freedom? Why am I so disturbed by anxiety? Why is there so much anxiety in my life? Excuse me, I'm just going to send a message to this. So, leave that one. Someone calling from America. So why am I concerned? Why am I disturbed? Why am I not peaceful? Why am I not experiencing the completeness? All sorts of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge. So the answer to the question is knowledge. The answer to the question of what's the missing link? What's between me and my limited, anxious, slow, however our mind condemns us, and the reality of the completeness. All sorts of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete. So Bhagavad Gita contains the complete knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If we don't do anything else, we study Bhagavad Gita and we discuss it and we give and take. So I'm open to comments, questions, especially your realizations, because I'm enthused whenever I hear realizations about where you're at. And if you're not present here today live, then you can leave comments on the chat on the Krishna Katha Auckland Facebook page or YouTube page. And Prabhupada is giving us Bhagavad Gita in all his books for as results-based teachings. He didn't come as an armchair philosopher. He didn't want us just to read and be able to spout we do spout in the sense we repeat according to our own level of realization, according to our own experience. We can explain what we're reading. It's called preaching. Although the word preaching also has certain connotations which may be taken as kind of preachy, holier than thou, speaking down from the pulpit. So we might say, share Krishna. I like to say share Krishna consciousness. So by all means, engage very vigorously in sharing Krishna consciousness. Give your full energy to it, because that is purifying. According to your level, according to your ability, according to your material station. Give your mind, give your money, your thoughts, your intelligence, your words, your association. Be bold in that. What we're reading and saying today is in no way intended to minimize that. In fact, it's meant to increase that, because as instruments of Krishna, accepting the words of the pure devotee, whether we believe it, believing implies that I can fit it into my limited faculties. It's like taking the ocean and trying to put it in a bottle. It's impossible. So believing something means somehow I've understood it. All right, to some extent, we do understand. We get realization, but that's a tiny drop compared to the ocean of realization that is awaiting and is Krishna. Even Krishna himself doesn't understand himself fully. He does, and then the next second there's more. So it's always expanded. Nava Yovanam, always young and fresh, eternally expanding, youthful, energetic. Yes, we get realization, no question. But we don't have to believe something in order to realize it, to act on it. So as much as our faith in Srila Prabhupada is strong or deep, that much we will accept. Now, we don't want to get mental, judging what the level of my faith is. If we simply pray, my dear Lord, from this moment on, I accept everything you say. From this day on, I am yours, no matter what. And we strive to live accordingly, knowing that, yes, we may well slip, and then we have a chance to get up again and struggle to remain fixed in understanding, discussing, and applying the instructions of our past, present, and future founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your attention and your participation. Hare Krishna. I'll stay on a few more seconds to allow anyone to share anything, even to say Haribol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare.